Hello, thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Marcus Cage, and this is What I've Been Thinking with Marcus J. Cage. In this episode, this video, I wanted to discuss the upcoming debate. Um, there's a couple of other subjects that I do want to get to this week and a couple of things that I want to discuss. But in this video, since the debate is coming up very soon, I believe it is January the 12th. So that's Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So far, the candidates which we have who have qualified and that will be on the stage for the debate is Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Tom Steyer, and Amy Klobuchar. Now, my predictions for this video really quickly. As far as, I guess I'll start with the candidates which I don't feel, which I don't personally expect a lot from in this debate. I could be surprised. It's happened before, and I'm sure it'll happen again. Pete Buttigieg, before he's been the target of a lot of attacks, and he's been the person who's gotten a lot of heat and who I predicted to get a lot of heat in previous debates. I feel he is going to be one of the snipers in this one. He's going to be trying to launch attacks from various different points on various candidates. At this time, I'm not certain who will be his focal point, but I expect for Mayor Pete to be on the attack, especially since his numbers have been declining. Next, Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar had a very strong debate last time with her attacks against Pete Buttigieg, and I feel that though the attacks were very strong and they landed, and I feel it was her best debate performance, I just don't feel it's enough that's going to be able to move the needle. And I feel that this debate, since she's basically got out most of her major attack lines, I don't feel that there's a lot much room to go after a Mayor Pete. And her previous attacks towards Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren have come up pretty flat, and she agrees for the most part with Vice President Biden. And then Tom Steyer, there's not a lot of I guess dissension between the two of them, so I don't expect for her to have an axe to grind against Tom Steyer. So since Amy hasn't really telegraphed that she's going after any particular candidate in this next coming debate, I don't expect a lot from Amy Klobuchar. But as I say again, we never know what could happen. Tom Steyer. I imagine that Tom Steyer will get more speaking time in this debate coming up for the simple fact that he's been pumping a ton of money into a handful of states, and he's actually risen up in, I believe, two different states. South Carolina, to be specific, last I heard, he is around 15%, which is actually within margin of error of the polls of Bernie Sanders. So he's right around, I believe, second or third in South Carolina. So that's something to keep an eye on. And I know that he'll definitely get more questions and more coverage due to that. I feel that he will do what he's done in each of the last two debates, whereas his attacks have been more generalized against the whole field as a total. Basically launching his attacks as if each one of those members all together represent politicians and the ineffectiveness which the system has shown over the years. So I expect to see more of that line of attack from Tom Steyer. Bernie and Biden. Normally, I try to discuss the different candidates separately, but I feel this debate is going to be all about Bernie and Biden. They've been basically going at it, and each camp has been launching attacks. The candidates individually have also been launching attacks back and forth. So I feel that is going to be the thing to look for in this coming debate. I feel that also with Trump naming Bernie Sanders in recent attacks on the campaign trail will be something that will be discussed possibly on the debate stage. With the strike, with the Iranian strike on, well, not Iranian strike, but President Trump's strike on General Qasem Soleimani, that is going to be a good focal point of discussion as far as foreign policy, which really hasn't gotten a lot of attention in this primary cycle, to frustration of my own person. I feel like foreign policy is one of the issues that we need to be speaking more about, especially due to the fact that as commander-in-chief, that is the one aspect of that job where the president is making more of the decisions on their own. I know that in the campaigns, we focused a lot more on domestic issues, Medicare for all, student loan debt relief, and a lot of these other programs, UBI, whatever it may be. But the president will have the most unilateral control over foreign policy. And when there's terrorist attacks, when there's a bombing here, when there's an earthquake, when there's national relief, those are issues where the president directly will be able to make judgment calls on their own, and it's not going to be going through Congress or going through Senate and a lot of things. So I feel that there definitely should be far more emphasis focused on this particular area of the president's duties. And with all that going on, it's going to bring up a lot of questions about Joe Biden and his record and decision making, especially because of how he backed the Iraq War and some of the other conflicts which he supported or been on the wrong side of throughout his political history and political life. Bernie is showcased some of those attacks, and I think that this debate is going to be a lot of fireworks towards that. How I feel that those attacks, who I feel will be the winner or losers, or who will just stay in the same spot. I predict, if I had to pick one person to be the sole loser in this one, I would pick for Amy Klobuchar to probably have the weakest night out of all the candidates. I just don't see a lot for her to go after, or a lot for her to go after in any of the candidates this time around. And I don't see a strong, coherent message which she puts forward that inspires voters. So Amy Klobuchar, I think, is going to have probably our weakest night. Joe Biden will probably do the worst, but because Joe Biden's the front runner and because the bar is set so low for him, he's going to be able to get away with a certain amount of gaffes, mistakes, and just certain things about his record, which is just going to be dismissed by mainstream or cable news. So I feel, even though he will be attacked by Biden and to some degree, all the other candidates, if they see that there is a lane where it's effective and it appears that whether it's the moderators or whether it's the crowd is responding, there will be more attacks towards Biden. So depending on how Biden weathers the storm, his night can go. I honestly think that he's probably just going to sit in the middle and simmer. I think the attacks are going to be strong, but I just don't feel that it's going to be enough to tick anything in any major direction to be noticeable, if that makes any sense. Um, I do feel that the wind is at Bernie Sanders' back, and so I feel that he's going to go out there and he's going to be able to make some strong points, and he's going to be able to do some damage to Biden in the sense that we won't notice a major shakeup and a major drop or decline, which we've seen with Mayor Pete, or which we've seen with an Elizabeth Warren. But it only needs a little bit from Biden over to Bernie to actually start making a difference. I mean, we're talking about roughly 5% in some polls, and say 10% in South Carolina. I mean, he chips away 10% in South Carolina, virtually any state. Biden's in trouble if that happens. So that's all I wanted to discuss pretty much about the upcoming debate. There's a couple other videos that I really want to work on and get out to you as soon as I can. So hopefully I can get them out before anything crazy or worse happens with the whole Iranian situation. I guess that's all I have for you today. And hope you guys have a good one. Thank you.